All right, time to record. Hey everybody, this is Jeremie. So there have been a couple of people that have asked some questions about Filmetta, and so I thought I'd go ahead and answer those questions. So in this first video, Faith asked a question, and I will have to get my phone to read it. So Faith writes, "Hey Jeremie, so lately I've been thinking of making a logo/watermark for my photos and have been looking around and am not sure what program to use. So I thought I would ask you what you use for making the Filmetta logo. Thank you." And so I could just give the short answer, and that is Keynote on my Mac. But I know that there's a bit more that kind of goes into that, so I kind of wanted to make a video to give a more full explanation. First off, I'll say that I've enjoyed making logos before I was even a teenager. I used to put them together in Microsoft Paint, and I thought they were the best things in the world, but they were not. I don't recommend using Microsoft Paint from Windows XP. I think the newer 3D Paint might be a better choice. It might be better in general than a lot of other choices that you could make, but still I would not quite recommend it for dedicated graphics. And so I'm not like other graphic designers in that there is one certain tool in particular that I don't like, and it's called the Bezier. I'm gonna Siri. Pronounce Bezier.
Bezier.
I did that incorrectly. It's Bezier. Bezier?
Bezier.
Bezier. Almost like you're just saying the letters B-Z-A. Bezier. Bezier? I am still not getting it. Anyway, it's supposed to be a staple for graphic designers, but just for some reason I don't like it. It's basically extra handles for your curve tool. And for making custom shapes, that's something that's used millions of times in order to make really good graphics. I actually know that you can only do so much on Apple's Keynote. It's a lot more graphic design wise than you can get with PowerPoint, for example. I've tried making logos with PowerPoint and I have been somewhat successful, but it's just not the same as Apple's Keynote. And so, yeah, there is a bit of a difference there. And it's actually, believe it or not, one of the main reasons why I choose Mac. There's that, there's Final Cut Pro, and then there's also a tool called Quick Look. And those are my lifesavers. It helps me with my workflow, and it makes a huge difference to me. There is a good bit that you can do within Keynote, and you can even have objects be animated. That's what I did for my logo, for having the revealing of the Filmetta label. So thanks, Faith, for actually bringing that question up, because I know that I could go further with my graphic design tools. And so I actually started hunting again, looking for different programs and such, from Inkscape to various other programs, because I know that only about 10% of people will actually have a Mac. It's not exactly an option for everyone to use Keynote. One thing that I did rediscover was Adobe's Illustrator, and that's a common staple, and they did have an option for a quote-unquote regular curves tool. And so usually one of the first things I start out just experimenting with different programs is just trying to draw an egg. It's a simple shape, but it's not like just drawing a circle, and it just gives you enough to play around with it to see if you like it. I know Adobe can be expensive over time. I really prefer to purchase software instead of having to pay for it month by month. And so I don't know if I'll stick with Adobe. I know their products are staples, and so I need to know how to use these tools, but I might not stay with them. I know I prefer Final Cut Pro definitely over Premiere Pro. That's just my taste. One thing that's also important to keep in mind is the difference between different programs. And so what you're kind of trying to look for is a vector program. That's basically the computer figuring out what lines connect where and what to fill them in with. And putting it all together. And so that's Illustrator, that's Inkscape, similar programs like that. Then you have your painting programs, and there's some like was it Autodesk and some like that that are very dedicated to just being able to draw. If you're good at drawing, those are great opportunities and tools to use. Some people like to use tablets. I know I've used the iPad for drawing different things. Photo editing software, of course, which I'm sure you're used to, Faith. There are other programs that try to be all three, and basically that's Photoshop and other free variations like GIMP, you might have heard of. And I used it. I was able to get by with it. I think I do prefer Photoshop now. And so I hope that answered your question well. I know it wasn't too clear and dry cut. But so if you have a Macintosh computer, I would definitely recommend using Keynote to start out. It's a very easy tool to adapt to. Otherwise, if you're using Windows, especially, I would recommend using Illustrator. You can go to Adobe and use their free trial, especially if it's just a logo watermark. It's easy to get started with that. You might need a few tutorials just to get going, but I think you'll do all right. There are a few other notes though I'd like to make before closing this video, and so that is when you're making a watermark file, make sure that you get the right file type. You want to be able to get a file that's called PNG. You don't want the common JPEG, JPEG, or JPG, because those files are good for photography in that they are very compact in size, but they will not have transparent backgrounds, whereas PNGs can. You gotta make sure that with PNGs that you actually have a transparent background. Sometimes you'll just have like a white canvas to start out with, and you make your logo and you think, oh, you know, it'll have a blank background because it's white. And no, it's not going to be a blank background. And so with Keynote, I think you have to hit Document and change the settings there. I'm not sure about Illustrator, but there has to be tools in there to be able to cut out the background. I've done that with Photoshop before, and it's got to be an option there with Illustrator. So there are many different ways you can make your logo, and maybe I'll make another video for that sometime. Ultimately, it comes down to whatever program that you like the best. I know for me that's Keynote, but for other people they'll insist that Illustrator is the best, or a choice program of their own. It does take some trying and figuring out what works for you. But if you have any questions, any troubles getting started with either Keynote or Illustrator, definitely let me know in the comments below, or you can message me, and I hope that answers your question. So if anyone else has questions on video production or photography or graphics, I definitely appreciate them. Please let me know in the comments or message me. This is Jeremie with Filmetta, and I hope you all have a great day.